السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the extension of the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, and there is in the 50 hadith book by Ibn Rajab rahimahullah that he made them 50 after the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. And some of the hadith there are also principles and matters of the deen with different subjects, matters of fiqh or manners or etiquettes and things of that nature. And this hadith that we're about to recite inshallah or to understand is the hadith number 47, and it's about something with regards to eating. And some of the people of knowledge, they called it that this is also one of the foundation of all of the matters of tib, or whether it's called nutrition or medicine or things of that nature. So let's see the hadith. Hadith says عن المقدام ابن معدي كرب قال, he said, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم saying, ما ملأ آدمي وعاء شرا من بطن بحسب ابن آدم أكلات يقمن صلبه فإن كان لا محالة فثلث لطعامه وثلث لشرابه وثلث لنفسه. The hadith is reported by Imam Ahmad, الترمذي والنسائي وابن ماجه, وقال الترمذي حديث حسن. What does this hadith means? The hadith means that the Prophet ﷺ said, ما ملأ آدمي وعاء, which means there is no or the son of Adam, Adami is the son of Adam. So the son of Adam does not fill any wi'a, any vessel, any container worse than his stomach. ملأ آدمي, آدمي, any human being. ملأ means filled. Adami, son of Adam. Wi'a is a container or a vessel. شرا من بطن. شرا, evil or worse than بطن or the stomach. So the son of Adam does not fill any vessel worse than his stomach. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَمَ أَكَلَاتٌ يُقِمْنَ صُلْبَهُ. بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَمَ, which means it is sufficient for the son of Adam to eat a few mouthfuls to keep him standing upright. بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَم, hasb is sufficient. Like you say, حَسْبِ Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my sufficient. So بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَم, it is sufficient for the son of Adam. أكلات, أكلات is few morsels of food. يقمن صلبه. يقمن صلبه, make his sulb or his body upright, to keep him standing upright. That's what is sufficient for him for food. فإن كان لا محالة, but if he must, كان لا محالة, there's no way out, that means he has to fill it, he has to eat. فثلث لطعامه, then 1/3 for his food, وثلث لشرابه, and 1/3 for his drink, وثلث لنفسه, and 1/3 for his breathing. This hadith was narrated by, as he says, Imam Ahmad والترمذي والنسائي وابن ماجه. In Tirmidhi, he said it's a sound hadith. So this is one of the hadith that talks about well-being with regards to food, which is one of the shahwa, one of the desires that human beings they have with regards to eating. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in the human beings the shahwa or the desire of things, and also He created in the human beings the intellect and reason. And it's always a struggle between one's intellect and one's desire. And intellect, when we say intellect, is al-aql, is that would make a person, for example, submit himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be obedient to Allah, to leave something now for the sake of Allah, seeking the rewards from Allah in the hereafter. That's what makes a person aqil, that what makes a person has intellect, to leave things for the sake of Allah. This is with regards to the halal and the haram, and also physically. You know how many people, they go through all kinds of physical patients to be healthy, and they do things that they don't necessarily like, just to be healthy or to lose weight, or putting themselves into some diet or some physical activities and so on. So this beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as some of the early Salaf rahimahullah, they said in Tafsir ibn Kathir, he mentioned this, that جمع الله الطب كله في نصف آية, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned all the tibb, all the medicine, in half of a verse. وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink, and do not tusrifu, do not make israf. Eat and drink, this is how to sustain our life, but without excessiveness. So the things that we eat, which is a major thing in our life, what we eat, what we drink. Many people, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, eating and drinking, it's about enjoyment. It's about just fulfillment of one's desire. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not haram if it's done in the halal way. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to think in the right way, like everything else. So the first thing that we need to benefit from this is that we need to use our reason and intellect when it comes to eating and drinking. That we're eating and drinking so that we have a good, healthy life to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to push away harmful things like diseases and so on, that prevents the person from the worship of Allah. Why do we want to live? Why do we want to be healthy? It's not about to have a desirable life, rather to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to increase the rewards by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We mentioned this concept before. It's just changing the way that we perceive things. The Prophet ﷺ, when he would visit a sick, and he would say, Allahumma shfi abdaka fulanan, or Allah, cure your slave so and so, and he would mention his name. Why? Yamshi laka fi salah wa inka laka aduwan. So that he would walk for a salah for you, to a salah for you, and he would defeat your enemy. This is why we're making dua for that brother to be healthy, so that he would use his health for the sake of Allah. But if a person is sick and he become healthy to use his health to spread corruption and abuse on the face of earth, that person is better for him, let alone for others, to be sick. So to look at things from the purpose of our life, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, this is an important thing, and one of which is to take the means for a healthy life. So this is part of the deen, is to be healthy, is to take the means to be healthy, and everything is by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if a person thinks that this hadith forbids a person to be overweight, for example, it's not about overweight or less weight or whatever, because some people, this is something that they cannot control in themselves, hormones and the like of this. It's talking about a specific action. It's about eating and drinking. It's not about that you have to lose weight or you have to gain weight. That's also subject that is subject to halal and haram, permissible matters. But it's about our intake when it comes to eating and drinking. So the Prophet ﷺ started the hadith by stating a fact here, that the worst and the most evil vessel or container that a person would want to fill is one's stomach. So there are aw'iyah, that's the plural of wi'a, vessels or containers that we fill, containers of water, containers of things that people would fill for them to drink, or for keeping it for many days to be present, and things like this. So al-aw'iyah, or the containers, are good benefiting things, and the stomach also of a person is a wi'a, is a container. So the worst thing is to fill it. There's the worst container, and how the Prophet ﷺ said it perfectly. The worst container to fill is one's stomach. There's nothing worse than that. Which shows that this is something that is not good for a person to fill his stomach. And the ulama, they mentioned, does that mean even one time? No, it means in the norm, that a person's norm is to fill his stomach. He fills his stomach. So always eat. He eats till he's done. He's not able to eat anymore. Right? And he was asked, why don't you eat more? I can't. I'm full. that word that I'm full, we need to have less of it. And that's what makes a person follow this hadith, as the ulama, they say, and it's mentioned also in the sharh, is to leave the food before the person is full. So to leave it when a person still have some form of a desire to it. And that's one of the difficult things, of course, especially if we are used to eating food till we cannot breathe even. But rather, if a person leaves it when he still have a desire to it, not the same as he desired it in the beginning, it is not a call for a person to leave the food when he's extremely hungry, but to not to fill one's stomach. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned what's two levels here. The first one is, the best is to take what is sufficient to keep one's upright. And the meaning of upright, yuqimna sulba, to be upright, that means you're standing, you're doing your activities, your physical activities, whatever you do during the day. We all need energy and we need food. So what is the amount of food that is sufficient for a person to do his job? And people are different, and the work that they do also is different. So what is sufficient for a person to keep himself upright according to each and everyone's occupation, that what should be the best state that a person can be in. So any excessiveness is better to stay away from it. Because it doesn't benefit the person, it harms the person, doesn't benefit him in the hereafter, and so on. The Prophet ﷺ said, akalat, in some of the narrations, luqaymat. Luqaymat is the tasghir, or the smaller of luqma. Luqma is a morsel of food, or a bite of food. When it says luqaymat, that means it's a small bite of food. So not just, bites of food, can be also something relative from one person to the other. So small bites of food. And some, even went to the extent of which it means it's counted bites of food. So akalat also gives that sense of it's not too many, it's not big. But how many is what yuqimna sulba, what makes him upright, what makes him physically fit. So if a person, he listens to the hadith and he wants to be hungry all the time, and then he's lazy or tired, he's not able to do his duties, he's not able to fulfill his physical work or anything like this, that's basically he's doing the total opposite of what the hadith means. So yuqimna sulba means to keep him upright in all what he needs to fulfill the means that he needs in his life. And so this is the best state. The second state, or the second best, and it's still good, but it's not the best, is the one that the Prophet ﷺ said afterwards, فَإِنْ كَانَ لَا مَحَالَ. That means if there is no way out, unless he fills it, he has to fill it. So the first one is to have luqaymat or akalat, morsels of food that's not going to fill the stomach. So it's not filling the stomach. So a person is not, having his stomach filled. So if he has to fill it, if he has to fill the stomach, and it shows that filling the stomach does not mean that he packs it up till it's completely full, but also it gives the sense that if a person eats fills 1/3 of his stomach, that's filling the stomach, right? But this is the maximum when it comes to filling. So فَإِنْ كَانَ لَا مَحَالَ, that means if there's no way out unless he has to fill his stomach, then فَثُلُثٌ لِطَعَامِهِ, then 1/3 for his stomach, 1/3 for his drink, and 1/3 for his breathing. And this is something that, how can a person measure that? There's no such a thing as precise measurement of such a thing, but a person can feel it. He can feel that this is 1/3, or to basically make one's food or intake of food and drink to be equal with one's breath also. So فَثُلُثُ لِطَعَامٍ, the food, since we know that this is part of the deen, to make sure that it's from halal and so on, and healthy food and things of that nature. And 1/3 is for one drink, and 1/3 for one's breathing. Al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentioned that the levels of intakes of food and things like this are 3 levels. The first level is martabatul haja. Al-haja is necessity. A person has to have food, so that's one level. The second one is al-kifaya, is to be sufficient, to be sufficed for. And the third one is martabatul fadla, or the extra, or the things that is not needed and is just extra food. So the Prophet ﷺ said, it's sufficient for him to have morsels of foods that to keep him upright, does not fall, does not become weak, and so on. If he goes beyond this, then it's to have 1/3 and 1/3 and 1/3. And this is what is best for one's body, one's heart, and I'm not talking about physical being, and also for religious being. Because as Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when he was asked, would a person be able to have khushu' if he has a full stomach? He said, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. And we see that clearly in Ramadan, for example, and how there is a strong relationship between night prayer and fasting. Why they're always together? Because when a person is fasting, it's easier for him to pray the night prayer. But if a person breaks his fast and eat too much food, then the Taraweeh prayer or the night prayer becomes one of the most difficult ones. So that's why we miss really the opportunity in Ramadan to eat less food, so that the person would benefit from it physically, and also, but more importantly, to benefit from it religiously. People can talk about this from a scientific point of view, from medicine, from talking about energy and nutrition and things like this, and how this hadith, they consider it one of the miraculous things about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that he shows the harm of eating and drinking in an excessive way, and that people are also different from one another, from one to the other. And I want to say something, and I'm not claiming to be of any form of a knowledge whatsoever when it comes to matters of medicine and nutrition and so on, but something to examine that statement. When people say human beings, you need whatever thousands of calories every day, right? The hadith says, بحسب ابن آدم أكلات يقمن صلبة. يقمن صلبة means what keeps you upright. This is what is sufficient for you. So it might be 1,000, 2,000, whatever. The issue is not about the food, that they make it valid for everybody. So everybody has to eat this, and every person, whether it's young or old, big or small, it doesn't work this way. It's each person, and that's what makes the hadith such a powerful and a clear one, is that human beings are different. They have different occupations, are different physically. So whatever keeps the person upright to do his job and to make him energetic and so on, and to fulfill his ibadah, this is what is sufficient for him. The maximum is not to fill more than 1/3 of one's stomach, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Is it then haram for a person to fill his stomach? If it's the norm of the life of the person, yes. But if a person once in a while, if he's invited or something, special occasion or something, it's not something that is to be forbidden at all times. Even though when that happens, it's still not a very pleasant thing. But the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr and Umar, when they ate till they were full, it was said in the hadith, but they were extremely hungry, and the Prophet ﷺ said to them that you will be asked about this favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you in the Day of Judgment. So and that's why Ibn Rajab here in the hadith, in the explanation, he talks also about the religious benefits to the heart. So physical benefit, it's very obvious and it's very clear, and it shows these two levels. When it comes to the benefits of the heart and the healthy heart religiously, it gives the heart riqqa, or softness, gives the person better understanding, makes a person more humble, makes a person less attached to one's desire and anger. This is all of the different benefits of eating less. And to be hungry for the sake of hunger, this is not what is meant. But to be able to control oneself, to be in having a will to control oneself for the sake of Allah, this is a good thing. And when people eat, they drink so much and they sleep so much and they miss so much, and it's a very clear also way that it's tried so many times. If a person wants to pray the night prayer, for example, if he eats a heavy meal before he goes to sleep, he's not going to make it to get up for the night prayer, for example. So it makes the person sleep less, makes the person use his time in a better way, and things like this. And all of that is with the condition that it's done in halal, and that person is doing it in a halal, and it's not to forbid what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted for us, but it's a call from the Prophet ﷺ for us to pay attention to what we eat, and to give us the best way of life of dealing with food and drinks and so on, that becomes so much, you find, stores and stores and advertising and marketing, and every day this is the concern: what are we going to eat today, and what type of food, and all kinds of, amazing numbers, and it's all business, and it's all for the greed of the human beings, and it's not about nutrition or food or anything. It's just about fulfillment of one's desire in this life. That's why, as well, even they say in the tarbiyah, once in a while, not all the time, but when we're raising our kids, there's nothing wrong with them to eat just bread or whatever is present in the house. It doesn't have to be every day we have a feast and we have meals being prepared and so on. It's not also a call for the people not to cook food or to neglect their families, but not to make food is the driving force in our life, or what we always go after and things like this, and to have moderation in everything that we do. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for all of us, inshallah ta'ala, and to bless our life. So we'll stop here, inshallah, and we continue, inshallah ta'ala, next time. Jazakumullah khairan for coming. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa baraka Muhammad wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.